Hello, it's Warren Murray filling you in about Friday's news. Results are coming in from the local elections. The Labour Party has made gains in London, while the Conservatives have had the best showing in the rest of England. We've had a reporting team up all night and our live coverage continues this morning, while our interactive page lets you keep track of all the results as they arrive. At time of writing, with results in from 87 of the 150 councils in England holding elections, all three main parties have achieved net gains in numbers of seats. Labour was on 1,072 seats, plus 30, the Conservatives 642, plus 16, and the Lib Dems 278, plus 24. Labour had 144 councils, minus 1, the Conservatives 27, no change, and the Lib Dems 3, no change. UKIP were the biggest losers of the night. With results in from 87 councils, they had lost 35 seats, and won just 2. Here is how the night unfolded in some of the key races. The results mean Theresa May has emerged unscathed from her first major electoral test since the general election. Preliminary analysis suggests that outside London there was a swing from Labour to the Conservatives. In London the trend was different, but Labour failed to secure high-profile gains that some in the party had hoped for. A much-touted attempt to seize control of Wandsworth was foiled by the Conservatives, who have held it since 1978. On the BBC election programme, Justine Greening, the Conservative former Education Secretary and MP for Putney, said, "Maybe we are beginning to see something akin to peak Corbyn happening." The Tories have also held Westminster, and Labour has conceded it can't win Kensington and Chelsea. The Conservatives gained control of Basildon and Peterborough, both from no overall control. Jonathan Carr-West, CEO of the Local Government Information Unit, said, "At present it looks like a better night for the Conservatives than many would have anticipated." While Labour results have not quite lived up to expectations, the Lib Dems made big strides in terms of numbers of councillors and swept away the Conservatives in Richmond, presumably benefiting from being the only major party opposed to Brexit in the borough that recorded one of the highest Remain votes in the country. Overall though, we seem to be seeing an entrenchment of the status quo. A divided Britain in which big cities vote Labour and everywhere else votes Conservative, said Carr-West. Novichok was made to kill. Up to 100 grams of liquid nerve agent may have been used in the attempted murder of Sergei and Yulia Skripal, according to the World Chemical Weapons Watchdog. The quantity of Novichok used in the Salisbury attack was much more than would be kept for research purposes, indicating it was made to be used as a weapon, said Ahmet Ozumcu, head of the OPCW. The poison was of a high purity and very persistent where it had been spread. Almost 200 military personnel in protective suits and boots are spending months decontaminating 9 sites in Salisbury. Storm over Trump hush money. Donald Trump is being accused of breaking campaign finance law after admitting he reimbursed the money paid by his lawyer to Stormy Daniels in the run-up to the 2016 election. He previously said he didn't know about it. The US president has insisted no money from the campaign flowed to the adult film actor who alleges an affair with him. But watchdogs and experts argue that Trump still broke the law by failing to include the $130,000 payment in campaign financial disclosures. Walter Shaub, former director of government ethics and Trump critic, said, "It is absolutely stunning that we've reached the point where the President of the United States appears to have lied to the U.S. Office of Government Ethics about a payoff to a porn star." Twitter password warning. Twitter has advised all its users to change their passwords after a security flaw was found. There was no indication of breach or misuse of the passwords, which had been stored as plain text on internal system logs when they should have been encrypted. Olivia Solon's report explains the bug and what you should do if you're on Twitter. Indian Ocean's lonely graves. The seabed search for Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 may have found no trace of the airliner, but it has potentially solved the mystery of 2 19th-century shipwrecks. Maritime historians have published a short list of possible identities of the wrecks that were found in the initial search of 274,000 square miles of the Indian Ocean, where MH370 is thought to have gone down with 238 people on board. One is thought to be the brig W. Gordon, bound for Australia from Scotland in 1877, or the Magdala, lost in 1882 while sailing from Wales to Indonesia. The other wreck is likely the bark West Ridge, which vanished in 1883. Both are more than 3 kilometers down and unlikely to be researched further. says Ross Anderson from the Western Australian Museum. These are the deepest wrecks so far located in the Indian Ocean. They're some of the most remote shipwrecks in the world. Some of us still walk. A backlash is taking place against charging stations for electric cars, with pedestrians complaining they block their way. Islington Council in London has been clever enough to install them in lamp posts, but in many localities they have just been plonked on footpaths. Meanwhile, Velib, the pioneering Paris bike share scheme copied from London to Seattle, is in ruins after its new operator ripped out perfectly good bikes and docking stations. The once hugely popular scheme has lost nearly a third of its 290,000 subscribers. Lunchtime read: What to do about Russia. Britain is calling time on Russia's disinformation campaigns with a major international push to counter the Kremlin's propaganda efforts. British politicians and counterparts in Europe say traditional diplomacy no longer works with Russia because its government simply lies whenever it's got any explaining to do. Putin is waging an information war designed to turn our strongest asset, freedom of speech, against us, said Tom Tugendhat, chairman of the Commons Foreign Affairs Select Committee. You should spend some time today getting to grips with how the Russian government wages war on the truth, a prime example being its embassy in London, and the foreign minister himself, spreading conspiracy theories about the Salisbury poisoning. RT, Russia's Kremlin-backed 24-hour news channel, is being investigated by the UK regulator Ofcom for breaches of impartiality rules, but the bigger story is its internet operation. Here's how it uses viral videos, humor and meme culture to spread fake news. Something to think about before liking or sharing one of their posts. Sport: a very sad Arsene Wenger laid bare his frustration after watching Arsenal come up short in the Europa League semi-final against Atletico Madrid and missing out on the dream farewell to his job of 22 years. Team Sky have been accused of deceiving the organisers of the Giro d'Italia into handing over a reported €1.4 million in appearance fees by not disclosing that their star rider Chris Froome had already failed a drug test. Aspel Kiprop has suggested he tested positive for EPO because drug control officers tampered with his sample, having also demanded money from the Kenyan 1,500 meters runner during the test. Surrey have pulled off an almighty coup by signing Virat Kohli, the India captain and cricket's premier all-format batsman, for the whole of June. Away from their ritual pre-fight shove for the TV cameras at a London hotel on Thursday, a more considered Tony Bellew paused to observe that, for all the insults and mind games, he expects David Hay to go down swinging when they meet again on Saturday night. And Major League Baseball will announce next week that the New York Yankees and Boston Red Sox will play 2 games at the London Stadium on 29 and the 30th of June next year. Business Asian shares have stepped back while the dollar ran into some profit-taking after a strong week of gains as financial markets turned their attention to looming U.S. payrolls data for fresh catalysts. Investors were cautious after a largely weak performance on Wall Street overnight as some disappointing earnings reports offset strong economic data, while bond yields slid after a surprising slowdown in Eurozone inflation. The pound is on $1.347 and €1.132 this morning. The paper's The Guardian leads with Britain's new drive to strengthen anti-Russia alliance, as detailed above. The splash headline in The Times is Barco digs in amid new bullying allegations. It adds that the Speaker believes he has the support to stay in office. The Telegraph says UK may stay in customs union until 2023. The story elaborations there are fears that Remainers will exploit the deal to thwart Brexit. They knew a year ago, says the Mail, about the disastrous breast screening failure at the NHS. The Eye reports that thousands of people have called the helpline that's been set up. The Financial Times says BT will unveil plans to cut 4,000 jobs as it tries to make £500 million in savings. The Sun is angry about police posing for photos with Arsenal's Ian Wright instead of going to a burglary 500 yards away. The Mirror's front features a grandmother, 81, returning after 8 years in exile because of the Windrush debacle, as well as scandal about jobs for naked cleaners being advertised on a government website. Sign up. The Guardian morning briefing is delivered to thousands of inboxes bright and early every weekday. If you are not already receiving it by email, make sure to subscribe. For more news, www.theguardian.com.